Namo Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajakacarya Ashtatar Sata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai अनंत कोटि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, I hope all you are doing well. Today we will be reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 2. Chapter 9, text 2. So before we start, let pray first, then we begin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Narayanam Namaskritam Naranchaivo Narattamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tatham Jayamudira जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नित्य नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So let's begin. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 2. Yesterday we read text 1 from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge. Krishna said to Arjuna, because you are non envious, I am going to impart the most confidential knowledge to you. Idam tu te guhyatamam pravakshami anasuyabe. This is most confidential knowledge I am going to share with you. Just because uh, idam tu te guhyatamam pravakshami anasuyabe. Anas, just because you are anasuyabe means envious free. So let's say what Krishna said in the next text. Krishna said here, please listen very carefully. This is very important text. Raj Vidya, Raj Guhyam, Pavitram, Idam Uttamam. Raj Vidya, Raj Guhyam, Pavitram, Idam Uttamam. Prataksha Avagamam, Dharmam, Susukham, Kartum Avvayam, Susukham Kartum Avvayam. राजविद्या राजगुह्यं पवित्रमिदम् उत्तमं प्रत्यक्ष अवगमं धर्मं सुसुखं कर्तुमव्ययम् राजविद्या राजगुह्यं राजविद्या राजगुह्यं पवित्रमिदम् उत्तमं प्रत्यक्ष अवगमं धर्मं सुसुखं कर्तुमव्ययम् राजविद्या राजगुह्यं पवित्रमिदम् उत्तमं प्रत्यक्ष अवगमं धर्मं सुसुखं कर्तुमव्ययम् Raj Vidya, the king of education. Synonyms. Raj Vidya means king of education. Raj Guhyam means kings of all confidential knowledge. Pavitra means the purest. Idam means this. Uttamam means transcendental. Pratyaksha, by direct experience. Avagamam, understood. Dharmam, the principle of religion. Susukham, very happy. Kartum, to execute. Avvayam, everlasting. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. This knowledge is a king of education, the most secret of all secret. It is the purest knowledge, and because it is a direct perception of the self by realization, it is a perfection of religion. It is a everlasting, and it is joyful performed. This knowledge is a king of education, the most secret of all secret. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives the direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. Purport. In this chapter of Bhagavad Gita called King of Education, because it is the essence of all doctrines, philosophies explained before. Among the principal philosophers in India are Gautama, Kanada, Kapila, Yajnavalkya, Sandilya, and Vaishyanara. And finally, there is Vyasdeva, the author of Vedanta Sutra. And there is no dearth of knowledge in the field of philosophy or transcendental knowledge. Now, the Lord says that the ninth chapter is the king of all knowledge. The sense of all education can be the essence of all knowledge can be derived from the study of Vedas and different kind of philosophy. It is the most confidential because confidential and transcendental knowledge involve understanding the difference between the soul and body. And the king of all confidential knowledge culminate in devotional service. Generally, people are not educated in the confidential knowledge. They are educated in external knowledge. As far as the ordinary education is concerned, people are involved with so many departments: politics, sociology, physics, chemistry, mathematics, astronomy, engineering, etc. There are so many departments of knowledge all over the world and many huge universities. But there is unfortunately no university or educational institution where the science of spirit soul is instructed. Yet the soul is the most important part of the body. Without the presence of the soul, the body has no value. Still, people are placing the great stress on the bodily necessities of life, not caring for the vital soul. The Bhagavad Gita, especially from the second chapter on, stress the importance on soul. It is very beginning the Lord says that this body is perishable and the soul is not perishable. That is the confidential part of knowledge. Simply knowing that the spirit soul is a different from the body and that is the nature is immutable, indestructible, and eternal, but that gives no positive information about the soul. Sometimes people are under the impression that soul is different from the body, and then when the body is finished or one is liberated from the body, the soul remain as in the void and become impersonal. But actually, that is not the fact. How can the soul, which is so active within the body, is inactive after being liberated from the body? It is always active. If it is eternal, then it is eternally active. If its activity in the spiritual kingdom are most confidential part of the spiritual knowledge, this activity of the spirit soul are therefore indicated here as a constitution, as a constituting the king of all knowledge, the most confidential part of all knowledge. This knowledge is the purest form of all activity, as explained in the Vedic literature. In the Padma Purana, man's sinful activity have been analyzed and shown to be the result of sin after sin. Those who are engaged in the fruitive activity are entangled in different stage and form of sinful reaction. For instance, when the seed of all particular tree is sown, the tree does not appear immediately to grow. It takes some time. It is first a small and sprouting plant, then it assumes the form of a tree. Then it flower and bear fruit, and when it is complete, the flower and fruit are enjoyed by the person who have sown the seed of the tree. Similarly, the man perform a sinful act and like you can see it take time to fructify. There are different stages. The sinful action may have already stopped within the individual, but the result of the fruit of that sinful action are still to be enjoyed. There are sin which are still in the form of seed. There are other which are already fructified and giving us fruit, which we are enjoying as distress and pain. as explained in the 28 verse of 7th chapter, a person who has completely ended the reaction of all sinful activity and who is fully engaged in the pious activity, being free from the duality of the material world, become engaged in devotional service to the Supreme Personality Godhead Krishna. In other words, those who are actually engaged in devotional service of the Supreme Lord are already free from all reaction. This statement is confirmed in Padma Purana. अप्राप्त फलं पापं कुतं बीजं फलं मुखं क्रमेणैव प्रलीयत विष्णु भक्ति ratatmanam. From those who are engaged in devotional service for the Supreme Personality Godhead, all sinful reaction, whether fructified in the stalk or in the form of seed, gradually vanish. Therefore, the purifying potency of all devotional service is very strong, and it is called Pavitram Uttamam, the purest. Uttama means the transcendental. Tamasa means the material world or darkness, and Uttama means that which is transcendental to material activity. Devotional activity are never to be considered material. Although sometimes it appears that devotees are engaged just like ordinary men, one who can see and is familiar with devotional service will know that they are not material activity. They are all spiritual and devotional, uncontaminated by the material mode of nature. It is said that execution of devotional service is so perfect that one can perceive the result directly. This direct result is actually perceived, and when we have practical experience that any person who is chanting the holy name of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, in course of chanting without the offense feel some transcendental pleasure and very quickly become purified of all the material contamination. This is actually seen. Furthermore, if one engage not only in hearing but in trying to broadcast the message of devotional activity as well, or if he engage himself in helping the missionary activity of Krishna consciousness, he gradually feels spiritual progress. This advancement in the spiritual this advancement in spiritual life does not depend on any kind of previous education or qualification. This method itself is so pure that by simply engaging in it, one become pure. In the Vedanta Sutra, this is also described in the following verse. Devotional service is so potent that simply by engaging in the activity of the devotional service, one become enlightened without a doubt. A practical example of this can be seen in the previous life of Narada, who in that life happened to be the son of maidservant. He had no education, nor was he born in the high family. But when his mother was engaged in the serving the great devotee, Narada has become engaged, and sometime in the absence of his mother, he would serve the great devotee himself. Narada personally says, उच्छिष्ट लेपन अनुमोदिता द्विजै सकृत स्म भुंजे तद अपस्त किल्मिष एवं प्रवृत्तश्च विशुद्ध चेतसा तद्धर्म एवात्म रुचि प्रजायते. In this verse, Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada described this previous life to his disciple Vyasdeva. He says that while engaged as a boy servant for those purified devotees during the 4 months of their stay, he was immediately associating with them. Sometimes those sage left remnant of food on their dishes, and the boy who would wash their dishes wanted to taste the remnant. So he asked the great devotee for their permission, and when they gave it, Narada ate those remnant and constant and consequently become free from all sinful reaction. As he went on eating, he gradually became as pure-hearted as the sages. The great devotee released this taste of unceasing devotional service to the Lord by hearing and chanting. And Narada gradually developed the same taste. Narada says further, तत्रन्व तत्रन्व अहम कृष्ण कथा प्रज्ञातम अनुग्रहेणाशन नाभम मनोहरोता श्रद्धया मेनु पदम वृषण्वत प्रिया श्रवश्य अंग मरुचिवत प्रिया श्रवश्य अंग मनमनावत रुचि Manmanavat Ruchihi. Sorry. By associating with the sages, Narada got the taste for hearing and chanting the glory of the Lord, and he developed the great desire for devotional service. Therefore, as described in the Vedanta Sutra, if one is engaged simply by the act of devotional service, everything is revealed to him automatically. And he can understand. This is called pratyaksha, directly perceived. The word dharma means the path of religion. Narada was actually the son of maid servant. He had no opportunity to go to school. He was simply assisting his mother for the and fortunately his mother rendered some service to the devotee. The child Narada also got the opportunity simply by associating achieve by simply by association achieved the highest goal of all religion. The highest goal of all religion is devotional service as stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Religious principle religious people generally don't know that the highest perfection of religion is the attainment of devotional service. As we have already discussed in regard to the last verse of the chapter 8, generally Vedic knowledge is required for self realization. But here, although Narada never went to school for the spiritual master and was not educated in the Vedic principle, he acquired the highest result of Vedic study. This process is so potent that even without the performing the religious process regularly, one can be raised to the highest perfection. How is this possible? This is also confirmed in the Vedic literature. One who is in association with a great acharya, even if he is not educated or has never studied the Veda, can become familiar with the knowledge necessary for realization. The process of devotional service is very happy one. Susukham. Why the devotional service consists of Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, one who can simply hear the chanting the glory of the Lord or can attend the philosophical lecture on transcendental knowledge given by the authorized acharya. Simply by sitting one can learn, then one can eat the remnant of the food offered to the god, nice palatable dishes. In every state, devotional service is joyful. One can execute devotional service even in the most poverty-stricken condition. The Lord says, "Patram puspam phalam toyam." He is ready to accept from the devotee all kind of offering. Never mind what, even a leaf of flower, bit of fruit, or the little water, which all are available in the in every part of the world, can be offered by any person regardless of the social position, and will be accepted it offer with love. There are many instances in the history simply by tasting the tulsi leaf offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, the great saga like Sanat Kumar become great devotee. Therefore the devotional process is very nice and it can be executed in a happy mood. God accept only the love with which things are offered to him. It is said here that the devotional service is eternally existing. It is not as a Mayavadi philosopher claim, although they sometimes take so-called devotional service. The idea is that as long as they are not liberated, they will continue their devotional service. But at the end, when they become liberated, they will become one with the God. Such temporary time serving devotional service is not accepted as the pure devotional service. Actually, devotional service continue even after liberation. When the devotee goes to the spiritual planet in the kingdom of God, he is engaged in the serving the Supreme Lord. He does not try to become one with the Supreme Lord. As will as will be seen in Bhagavad Gita, actually devotional service begin with the liberation. After one is liberated, when one is situated in the Brahma position, Brahma Bhuto, one's devotional service begin. No one can understand Supreme Personality Godhead by executing Karma Yoga, Gyan Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, and any other yoga independently. By this yogic method, one may make little progress towards bhakti yoga, but without coming to the stage of devotional service, one cannot understand what is the personality of Godhead. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also confirmed that when one become purified by executing the process of devotional service, especially by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita from the realized soul, then he can understand the science of Krishna or the science of God. When one heart is cleared from all nonsense, then one can understand what God is. Thus, the process of devotional service of Krishna consciousness is a king of all education and king of all confidential knowledge. This is the purest form of religion, and it can be executed joyfully without difficulty. Therefore, one should adopt it. Therefore, one should adopt it. So, here we concluded the reading of Bhaktivedanta purport for the day. I hope all you understood. Now let's jump into the insight. We have made a video and audio presentation for you. So we are attaching both this presentation at the end of the original video. Please listen till the end. You must have got the better understanding. And in some places I have mispronounced both Sanskrit and English word. Please forgive me for that. And thank you very much. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow again.
All right, in this explainer, we are diving deep into a really powerful idea from the Bhagavad Gita. It's this concept of a king of education, a kind of knowledge that's considered the most important knowledge of all. I mean, think about it. We study so many things: physics, engineering, sociology, you name it. But what if the most vital knowledge, the one thing that truly matters, understanding our own self, isn't on any of those curriculums? And this is the central claim we're going to unpack today, straight from the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And it makes some really bold statements, doesn't it? It says this knowledge is the king of all others, it's the biggest secret, it's the purest, it's everlasting, and, get this, it's joyfully performed. So let's break down what on earth that all means. So first things first, why is this knowledge called the king? Well, because it's presented as the very essence, the culmination of every other philosophy and every other type of learning out there. To really wrap our heads around it, we've got to understand a key distinction that the text makes. It's about two fundamentally different kinds of learning. And here's that crucial divide. On one side, you've got all the external knowledge that's taught in universities, everything focused on the material world. But on the other side, you have this royal education, understanding that the soul is different from the body, which leads to what's called devotional service. We have massive universities for every single one of these subjects. I mean, huge institutions. But the text asks a pretty striking question. Where's the university dedicated to the science of the soul? And that's the great paradox, isn't it? The soul is what gives the body its value. Without it, the body is lifeless. And yet, we spend so much of our time and energy caring for this temporary body, while often completely ignoring the eternal soul that's making it all work. So, this secret knowledge isn't just about, hey, a soul exists. It goes way deeper. It's about the soul's nature. The soul doesn't just poof into some empty void after death. It's eternally active. And understanding its spiritual activities, well, that's the most confidential part of this whole wisdom. Okay, next up, the verse calls this knowledge the purest of all activities. So what does that mean? Well, in a nutshell, it's about freedom. Total freedom from the consequences of all our past actions. There is this really powerful analogy used to explain it. Think of any sinful act as planting a seed. It doesn't give you its fruit right away, does it? Nope. It sprouts, it grows, and only much later does it bear its fruit, which we then experience as suffering and pain. A lot of the struggles we face today are actually the fruits of seeds we planted a long, long time ago. The text uses the specific Sanskrit term pavitram uttamam. Pavitra means the purest, and uttamam means transcendental. It's literally beyond tamas, or the darkness of the material world. So it's a path that is considered completely, totally uncontaminated. And this is the core promise of this purest path. Its purifying power is described as being so incredibly strong that it can neutralize those reactions at any stage. It doesn't matter if there's still a seed, a little sprout, or a fully grown tree. It's basically a way to wipe the slate clean. Now, a path of purification might sound difficult, maybe even a little daunting, but here's the really remarkable claim. It's also meant to be joyful. And you don't have to wait a lifetime to see the results. You can actually perceive them directly for yourself. The Sanskrit word for this is pratyaksha. And what this means is you don't need a PhD or some special qualification to even begin. Just by starting the process, you can begin to feel a real, tangible sense of purification and understanding. It's all about direct experience. And to make this really concrete, there's this incredible story about a great sage named Narada. His life is just the perfect example of how this whole direct perception-y thing actually works. So in a previous life, Narada had absolutely no worldly advantages. He was the son of a maidservant. He had no formal education, no high social standing. By all external measures, he was completely and totally unqualified. His mother happened to serve some great devotees, and young Narada would help her. One day, he simply asked for permission to eat the remnants of food they'd left behind. And that one simple act of service was so powerful that it freed him from all of his past sinful reactions, just like that. And as he just kept associating with them, he started to develop a taste for their message. And through this simple, organic process, with no formal training whatsoever, he achieved the highest spiritual perfection. That is pratiksha in action. Direct perception. And that brings us perfectly to the next quality mentioned in the verse, sukham, which means joyfully performed. The process itself is supposed to be inherently pleasant. So what makes it so joyful? Well, just look at the kinds of activities involved. Hearing beautiful chanting, discussing deep philosophy, eating delicious food that's been offered to God. The whole process is so accessible that even the simplest offering, like a leaf, a flower, or a little water, is accepted if it's just offered with love. Finally, let's look at the most permanent aspect of this knowledge. The verse calls it avyayam, or everlasting, and this is a really, really important distinction. And right here, we see a huge contrast with some other philosophies. Some people see spiritual practice as a temporary thing, something you do until you're liberated, and then you just kind of merge and become one with everything. But the path being described here is completely different. It's about a continuous, loving relationship that actually never, ever ends. And this, right here, is maybe the most profound takeaway of all. In this understanding, liberation isn't the end of the journey, it's just the beginning. The actual pure devotional service is what you do after you're fully liberated and back in your original spiritual position. It is an eternal activity. Which brings us right back to where we started, and it leaves us with this one final big question to think about. If this king of knowledge is so pure, so joyful, so directly experienced, and so accessible to literally anyone, why on earth is it called the most confidential, the most secret of all secrets? Definitely something to chew on.
Now we completed the video presentation. Let's begin with audio podcast.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're opening up some really fascinating ancient texts that claim to be, well, nothing less than the ultimate authority on existence. We're diving into something called Raja Vidya Rajaguyam. That translates to the King of Education and the King of Confidential Knowledge. Pretty bold titles.
Very bold. And the source material doesn't just state this, it really argues the case.
Right. It presents this verse arguing that this specific knowledge is like the purest way to spiritual realization. And not just a way, but the essence, the kind of unifying theory behind all the philosophy that came before it. So Our mission today really is to figure out what this kingly knowledge actually is. Why does it get called the king? And how do these 5 specific qualities define it? Qualities that apparently guarantee its power, but also, interestingly, that it's joyful and accessible.
Exactly. And that foundational verse, it isn't just making a claim, it's presented more like a detailed guarantee promising practical results. It lays out those 5 key attributes.
Okay, what are they?
First, it's pavitram uttamam. That means the purest, transcendental even. Second, it gives you pratyabhagama direct perception of the self through actual realization.
So you experience it directly.
Precisely. Third, it's dharmyam, which points to it being the perfection of religion or the true path of duty. And then maybe appealing to, well, everyone today, it's avyam, it's everlasting. It doesn't fade.
Okay.
And finally, susukham, it's joyfully performed, not a chore, but something done with happiness.
All right, let's unpack that first title then. Rajavidya, the king of education. I mean, that's a huge claim, saying this one body of knowledge is the absolute essence of all doctrines, all philosophies explained before it. It's not just another school of thought.
No, it's positioned as the synthesis. The idea isn't to compete, but to complete.
How so?
Well, the claim is backed up by showing how this knowledge integrates or synthesizes the core insights from the major Indian philosophical traditions. We're talking about thinkers like Gautama, who focused on logic, Katada on atomic theory, Kapila on cosmology.
Okay, the big names.
The big names, yeah.
Okay.
Yajavalkya, Shatilya, and critically Vyasadeva, the author of the Vedanta Sutra. So this knowledge is presented as the final, unified understanding, pulling from all those diverse, academic and spiritual paths.
And when you frame it as a synthesis, the relevance today kind of jumps out, doesn't it? We live in a world obsessed with knowledge of the physical physics, engineering, math, politics. You name it, there's a university for it.
Right.
But the texts point out, almost with a sense of, well, irony maybe. Where's the university teaching the science of the spirit soul?
It's a stark imbalance, isn't it? People are so focused, understandably perhaps, on the body's needs, clothes, shelter, status, all the external stuff, which is temporary.
Right, the temporary shell.
But what actually gives that body value, what
No.
animates it, it's the soul. The text argues that without the soul, the body is just inert matter, worthless, essentially.
So because modern education tends to overlook that vital, eternal part in favor of the body's needs,
Yeah.
this knowledge about the spirit self, well, it has to be the king of education.
Yeah.
It addresses the most fundamental thing,
Yeah.
the core priority.
That's the argument. It puts first things first.
Okay, so the scope, Rajavidya, that makes sense. Now, what about the depth? Raja Goyam, the king of confidential knowledge. Secret knowledge, what's the difference between just, regular confidential knowledge and the king of it?
Yeah, that's a great distinction they make. So basic confidential knowledge, and this is already a big step for many people, is simply understanding intellectually that the spirit soul is different from the body.
Okay.
Knowing it's immutable, indestructible, eternal, separate from this perishable matter we see. That understanding itself is considered confidential because, frankly, most people don't grasp even that much. They identify purely with the body.
Right, and still pretty profound.
It is. But the king of confidential knowledge, that goes way beyond just differentiation. It asks, okay, if the soul is eternal, what does it do eternally? It must be eternally active.
Ah, so it's not just knowing what it is, but its function.
Exactly. Knowing the soul is separate is step one. Knowing its positive eternal activity, that's the ultimate secret, the Rajaguyam. And the texts identify this eternal activity specifically as bhakti yoga, or devotional service, carried out in the spiritual realm.
Now, that really hits on a major point, doesn't it? It challenges a lot of common ideas about liberation, like the soul just becoming impersonal or resting in some kind of void.
It directly confronts that. The logic is simple. If the soul is active while it's here, trapped in a body, why would achieving its eternal state mean suddenly becoming inactive?
Yeah, that doesn't quite track.
Right. The very nature of the eternal soul, according to these texts, is activity. So this idea of dissolving or becoming passive, it's seen as a misunderstanding of what eternity means for a conscious entity. The king of confidential knowledge provides the positive scoop, what the soul is meant to be doing eternally.
And understanding those eternal activities, that devotional service, that's the most secret part.
That's the core of the Goyam, the most confidential aspect.
Okay, let's shift to the practical power then. One of the qualities was pavitramuttamam, the purest of the pure. How does actually doing this bhakti yoga, this eternal activity, actively purify us from, past stuff, past actions?
Good question. The commentary uses a really helpful analogy from another text, the Padma Purana. It compares sinful actions to seeds.
Seeds.
Yeah, like seeds sown in a field, they don't sprout immediately, right? They take time to fructify, to give results. Sinful actions, or their reactions, are seen as existing in different stages.
What kind of stages?
Well, some reactions might have already fructified. They're causing the distress or pain we feel now. Others are like sins in stock, waiting for the right conditions to manifest. And some are still just in seed form, not yet sprouted.
Okay, so past, present, future potential reactions.
Pretty much. Now, the claim is that devotional service, bhakti yoga, is so powerful, so transcendental is the word used, uttama, that engaging in it gradually makes all these reactions vanish. Not just the ones causing trouble now, but the stored ones in the seeds, too.
Wow, okay, so it's not just treating symptoms.
Exactly. It operates, they say, beyond the influence of the material world's qualities: goodness, passion, ignorance. That's why its purification is considered immediate and total. It gets to the root.
And if the results are immediate, that connects to the other quality you mentioned,
Yeah.
pratyekavagama,
Yeah.
direct perception. We're told you actually experience the results. How would someone listening, maybe just starting to explore this, see that purification happening?
The experience is meant to be internal and, well, quite direct. For instance, the sources say that anyone who just starts chanting the holy names of the divine, even if they don't do it perfectly, without all the rules, initially, they quickly start to feel purified from material contamination.
They feel lighter, clearer.
Yes, and they feel a kind of transcendental pleasure. That immediate, noticeable result is key. You don't necessarily have to wait years or lifetimes to feel something shifting. And there's another example given. If someone gets involved in sharing this message, broadcasting these ideas about devotional activities, they report feeling tangible spiritual progress, a kind of deep satisfaction.
And crucially, this doesn't depend on having a PhD or anything first.
Not at all. That's the point. The advancement doesn't hinge on prior intellectual achievements or social standing. The method itself, the practice, is the purifying agent.
That leads us right into another quality, dharmyam, the path of religion or duty, and also the accessibility point. This seems like a potential tension. If it's the highest education and the perfection of religion, doesn't that imply it must be really difficult, requiring, I don't know, advanced training or maybe being born into the right circumstances? How does the source handle that?
It's a paradox, isn't it? The highest, yet somehow accessible. The resolution offered is in the inherent nature, the purity of the process itself. Because the method is so pure, things like prior education or social status they become secondary, unnecessary even.
So the path itself levels the playing field.
In essence, yes. It's called dharmyam because it leads directly to the highest perfection of religion, which is defined here as that eternal service. And to show just how accessible it is, the texts provide a very famous story and anecdote about Narada Muni.
Ah, yes, Narada. Tell us about that.
Well, in a previous life, Narada wasn't some highborn scholar. He was the son of a maidservant. He had basically zero formal education, certainly hadn't studied the complex Vedic scriptures.
So by all traditional metrics, he was completely unqualified for high spiritual knowledge.
Exactly, unqualified. So how did he reach the pinnacle?
How?
Simply through association. His mother served some great realized devotees, sages. And Narada, as a boy, just by being around them, intimately associating with them, he absorbed something profound.
What was the key interaction?
The turning point mentioned is when he asked for permission, and this is significant, to eat the remnants of the food left on the sages' plates. Prasadam. By eating that sanctified food, and by hearing the sages discuss spiritual topics.
Just by listening and partaking.
He became, the text says, freed from his past sinful reactions. His heart became purified, and he naturally, almost automatically developed this deep taste, this attraction for hearing and chanting about the Supreme.
Wow. No formal study needed, just sincere association and openness.
That's the illustration. And it connects to a conclusion from the Vedanta Sutra, which says, Prakashasta karmanyapyasat. It basically means that simply by engaging in the acts of devotional service, the knowledge is revealed automatically, from within.
So the practice itself illuminates the path. It really democratizes it. Anyone can start.
Anyone who engages sincerely, yes, that's the message.
Okay, this simplicity flows perfectly into the last two qualities we need to touch on. Susukam, performed with happiness, joyfully, and avyayam, everlasting. If it's the highest path, maybe counterintuitively, It shouldn't feel like some grim, torturous duty.
Right. It shouldn't require agonizing penance. It should be something you actually want to do, something inherently pleasant, and the texts insist it is executed happily.
How so? What are these joyful acts?
Well, the core devotional activities are described as simple and enjoyable. Things like hearing talks on philosophy Sharvaka, engaging in chanting, often done with music kirtana, even things like preparing and eating really nice food, palatable dishes that have first been offered to God.
So, daily life activities, but done with a specific consciousness.
Exactly. The cost can be minimal, virtually nil, and the joy is meant to be immediate. It's not about elaborate, expensive rituals necessarily.
And the offering itself can be simple too, right?
Absolutely. The texts emphasize that the material value isn't the point. It's the intention, the love behind it. God is said to accept even the simplest offering, patra, papai, falatoyam, a leaf, a flower, a little fruit, a little water, if it's offered with genuine devotion.
Anyone can afford a leaf or some water.
Precisely. It removes material barriers entirely.
Okay, and finally, let's properly address avyam, the everlasting nature. We touched on the void idea earlier, but the text specifically contrasts this devotional path with others like karma yoga or jnana yoga. Why are those sometimes seen as temporary time servers in comparison?
Well, karma yoga generally involves acting without attachment to the fruits of action, and jnana yoga focuses on philosophical speculation, often aiming to understand the absolute and sometimes merge with it.
Okay.
While these are respected paths and can definitely lead towards spiritual awareness, their goals can sometimes be temporary from the perspective of these texts. For example, achieving a better situation within the material world, like reaching heavenly planets or even merging into an impersonal state of oneness.
Which is seen as maybe not the final destination.
Not the final active destination for the individual soul, according to this view. The source material strongly asserts the actual pure devotional service, bhakti, truly begins after liberation. After one is situated in what's called the Brahma-bhuta stage, spiritually realized, free from material contamination.
So liberation isn't the end. It's the beginning of real service.
It's the beginning of the soul's natural, eternal function. Since the soul is eternal, its perfect activity must also be eternal. This devotional service doesn't stop. It continues eternally in the spiritual realm. That's the essence of avyam everlasting.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up.
Yeah.
We started with this grand concept, Raja Vidya, Raja Guyam, the king of knowledge and the king of secrets. And through this discussion, we've seen how the texts argue that this refers specifically to devotional service, or bhakti yoga. It's presented as the unifying essence of philosophy.
Right, the completion.
It reveals the soul's eternal positive activity, not just its existence. It has this incredible purifying power.
Wiping the slate clean, essentially.
It's accessible to literally anyone, regardless of background, as the Narada story shows. And maybe most appealingly, it's meant to be performed joyfully, and its results are eternal.
That's a good summary. This specific process, bhakti, is really positioned by these texts as the supreme form of education and the deepest confidential knowledge, the purest expression of religion, offering not just freedom, but eternal happy engagement.
So, if you, listening, accept the core premise here that the body is temporary, perishable, but the soul is eternal, and crucially, eternally active. Well, it really brings up a provocative question, doesn't it?
It does.
Where are you putting your energy day to day? Is it mainly focused on maintaining the temporary material shell? Or are you consciously taking steps to cultivate what these texts describe as the lasting, joyfully performed activities of the spirit self? Activities they claim are your actual eternal nature. Thinking about that alignment, well, that's the practical heart of this kingly knowledge.